For an all-inclusive governance, the federal government has reiterated its commitment to support and provide a conducive environment for people living with disabilities in the country. The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadiya Umar Farouk, disclosed this at the National Summit on Disability Inclusion for Religious and Traditional Leaders in Nigeria. In Abuja, Malikido has more.
For persons with disabilities in its efforts to ensure full inclusion of persons living with a disability into the society. The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Sadiya Umar Farouk, who was represented by Umar Bindu, noted that given the needed support for persons living with disabilities and their leadership, the realization of their potential has become important.
This rare opportunity to appeal to our religious and traditional leaders to open your doors and give our brothers and sisters with disabilities opportunities through creating awareness and celebrating their lives, which has the capacity to foster attitudinal transformation. Some of our traditional and religious myths about disabilities are not in sync with realities, hence the need for our leaders to foster social inclusion in our activities.
Speaking earlier, the president of the Christian Association of Nigeria, Bishop Daniel Oko, and the Sultan of Sokoto, Mohammed Saad Abubakar, assured that both the traditional and religious leaders will continue to be the light of persons living with disabilities.
On the indispensable roles of religious and traditional institutions in Nigeria in advocating for a just and inclusive society devoid of all forms of barriers and discriminations against persons with disabilities. Our world is confronting a myriad of crises that are disproportionately impacting persons with disabilities, and we must make conscious efforts not to be part of this problem, but rather to be a solution and a source of inspiration and hope for our brothers and sisters living with physical challenges of various kinds.
And his team are now doing to bring to visibility this newly established commission. And that's why we must work with them to the highest level. So they are part and parcel of us. They must be very free to come to us. And this is not meeting of traditional and religious leaders. This is meeting with religious leaders under the aegis of NAREC.
In his remark, the Executive Secretary of the National Commission for Persons Living with Disability called on the religious and traditional leaders to include persons living with disabilities in their cabinets and worship centers in the country.
So when you look around this, you will see it very, very clearly that our religious institutions can play a very important role in our quest for disability inclusion in Nigeria. The provision of our law, section 18, make it that education should be inclusive for persons with disabilities. Our partnership with the religious institution today is something that we feel that is expected to provide us the necessary result, because as we push for disability inclusion in education, our religious institutions as well as our prayer houses.
It is hoped that the needed support will be given to persons living with disability in this